fish. 1 second, experts say to eat more of it to fend off heart disease with omega-3s. The next second, doctors say to avoid all fish or your brain will explode due to mercury poisoning. So what gives? Is fish a poison or is it the key to health? In this video, we're going to examine both sides of this double-edged sword and get to the bottom of this age-old conundrum once and for all. First, let's go over the reasons you'd want to take the alleged risk of eating this mercury-mingling marine meat in the first place. Fish is by far the best source of omega-3s in existence. You may have heard that you can get omega-3s from certain seeds, such as chia seeds, but this isn't exactly 100% true. The omega-3 fatty acids found in fish that are touted for their health benefits are primarily EPA and DHA. Plant sources contain a fatty acid called ALA, which is a bit more different than you might expect. ALA is converted in our body through a series of reactions into EPA and DHA. Sounds like there's no issue here, right? And you can just eat flax seeds for your omega-3s, right? Wrong. Because the conversion is bottlenecked in our bodies by an enzyme called delta-6 desaturase, which for any of you silly old folk without a 10-year PhD in biology means that we can only convert 1 to 10% of the ALA into EPA and DHA, which is the good ones we actually need. The percentage depending on how healthy you are, basically. So if you're healthier, you can convert more of it. If you're not healthy, you're going to convert way less. So just note that when you see people coming out with statistics saying, oh, actually, fish oil and chia seeds have about the same amount of omega-3s, slap them in the face and tell them, actually, it may have as low as 1% of the actual good omega-3s that you need. And as a little bonus round, if you're eating flax seeds or chia seeds for omega-3, remember to crush them up into a powder, or they're just going to pass through your bowels undigested. Another secret that nobody talks about is walnuts and hemp seeds. Walnuts and hemp seeds are not good sources of omega-3, contrary to popular belief, as they contain far more omega-6 than omega-3s. That's something everyone always glosses over. The omega-3s are basically just getting counteracted by the high omega-6 of those nuts. Fish is also an excellent source of quality proteins, obviously, meaning that not only are these proteins bioavailable, but they also contain a greater variety and greater quantity of the amino acids that you would find in high protein plant foods such as lentils, for example. Furthermore, they're also high in bioavailable minerals that people don't consider, such as magnesium, selenium, and iron. Hemines, to be exact. But anyway, enough gloating about how good fish is. What are the downsides? Down to the other side of the sword, as they say. What the frick is up with all the mercury in fish? How did it all get there? This scum race, known as human beings, began constructing all these big-ass factories and power plants and then dumping the waste, intentionally or accidentally, into the ocean. These metals, once they're in the ocean, it biomagnifies in the food chain. Biomagnifies, not bioaccumulates, as many people get wrong. So what this means is that smaller fish have small amounts, and then these smaller fish get eaten by the bigger fish, and these bigger fish store multiple times more mercury in them. That's why you always hear doctors and whatnot recommending that people limit their consumption of shark, tuna, and other large marine animals like swordfish. Mercury has been linked to many neurological issues when consumed in large quantities, but cases of it aren't actually that common because most people just don't eat enough fish to get poisoning these days. One very popular case of mercury poisoning was the Minamata fishing village incident in Japan, which is some people got such bad mercury poisoning that they straight up went to Valhalla. These people were poisoned by eating fish from an area in which water was polluted by a nearby factory. This highlights the necessity for people to choose foods from unpolluted sources, as well as the need to put that factory's administration in prison. Because what the hell is that? They just have a factory and they're just dumping chemicals into the ocean and people eat the fish. What the hell? If you're interested in that case, there's a movie with Johnny Depp in it called Minamata, which you can watch. I don't know if I'm actually pronouncing that right, to be honest. Farmed salmon can sometimes have less mercury in it than wild salmon, which might actually be surprising. But this has less to do with it being farmed or wild and more to do with the waters which the fish are raised in. Therefore, meaning that wild-caught salmon in clean waters can have less mercury than farmed. But enough of that. Is mercury really as bad as they make it out to be? For example, Japan is notorious for their large consumption of seafood as well as their long lifespans. Well, the science of mercury and how it works in the body is a bit complicated. For example, there are lots of factors which influence how much mercury we actually absorb from fish. For example, there are many things which we could be consuming with the fish that would bind to the mercury in it, thereby making you digest less of it. Sulfur, for example, is a mineral which binds strongly to mercury, but a mineral which binds even stronger with it is selenium, which, if TikTok hasn't fried your attention span yet, you'd remember from the start of the video that many fish are high in selenium. This could mean that eating fish with a high selenium to mercury ratio would mitigate the negative effects of mercury, and furthermore, that eating high selenium foods, like a few Brazil nuts, for example, with your fish, could help to block the absorption of the mercury. There's actually some speculation that the damage caused by mercury is only due to it depleting selenium in the body, but this actually hasn't been proven. Furthermore, how the fish is eaten also affects mercury. So, for example, cooked fish makes the mercury less bioavailable as it denatures the proteins. Normally, minerals becoming less bioavailable is a bad thing, but I guess it's good in this case. But how much mercury is safe to consume, I hear you ask? Well, fret not, my confused companion, as I have just the answer for you. A 70 kilogram, or 155 pounds in freedom units, a male can consume about 1 kilogram or 2.2 pounds of salmon a week. So that's quite a lot. Most people aren't eating that much unless they're a protein-starved pescatarian. In the description of this video, I have a link to a calculator, which you can use. You can enter your stats, enter your body stats into the calculator, mate. And that baby will tell you just how much mercury you can have. That's where I got that statistic from, by the way, the one I just said. But no, that's the thing, it's not just mercury in fish, there's all these other pollutants in fish. So aside from mercury, there's an assortment of other pollutants in fish, mostly also that are from human activity. You've probably heard of the words dioxins and PCBs thrown around a lot. These are carcinogenic compounds that are found in fish, meaning they cause cancer. Farmed fish, for example, farmed salmon, just keep in mind most salmon you find is farmed. Farmed salmon is usually higher in such compounds as are fish located in polluted areas, such as the Baltic Sea, for example, is quite polluted. Personally, I would avoid eating anything out of such polluted waters and would just try to avoid farmed fish where possible, as they're more polluted than wild. You can even taste the chemicals in them a bit if you've eaten farmed salmon and then compared the taste to wild sockeye salmon, for example. These pollutants also bioaccumulate in the fat, so even if you aren't eating the fish but are consuming, for example, a fish oil, or you're just getting a concentrated cocktail of these carcinogens. Did you like that alliteration? Concentrated cocktail carcinogens? The best advice I have is to avoid all farmed fish, particularly Norwegian salmon and any fish from Southeast Asia, as well as fish from polluted small closed-off seas such as the Baltic, and try getting fish from clean areas such as around Australia, that's my home. Alaskan salmon, also North Atlantic fish are pretty good too. Some pristine freshwater streams would also be acceptable, but be careful as these streams are physically smaller, so it's easier for them to get overrun with pollution, so to speak. So if you want to see a documentary that goes further into the pollutants in farmed Norwegian salmon, I'll put one in the description. It's a must-watch, so you should really be watching this. It'll really help you grasp just how bad farmed salmon is, and you'll see that I'll just eat farmed salmon, it's not a big deal. It kind of is a big deal. Watch the documentary and you'll see what I mean. Now, another popular little mishap in fish that you've probably heard of is microplastics. You've probably heard of the poisonous plastics polluting our precious fish. Microplastics are a huge thing that is always talked about. And 3 out of 4 fish in Australian oceans were found to have microplastics in them, with an average of 2.5 microplastic particles per fish. So pretty much all fish have it. So, and just like with mercury, these pollutants accumulate in higher numbers in larger fish. One study finding hundreds of microplastic particles in a single can of tuna. But you may be thinking, how much plastic is this really? Like, is it really damaging us? Well, for reference, plastic bottled water can have between 30 to 70 particles per litre. A litre is like roughly a quarter of a gallon for you Americans out there. And tap water has roughly 30 to 50 particles per litre. So obviously this depends on the individual bottle of water and the pipes where you live, but most people are consuming quite a lot of microplastics from water and they don't bother to avoid it. So it doesn't make sense for these people to avoid fish if they're already getting so much more plastics from just their water and they don't try to avoid that. That doesn't mean, that's not to say that microplastics are harmless at all. You should definitely try to avoid it by drinking, like for example, glass bottled mineral water, but that's a bit expensive for people. So in conclusion, the level of microplastics in smaller fish are essentially nothing to worry about. And the same goes for mercury. The benefits of eating these fish far outweigh the negatives, so long as you consume it in moderation. The best plan would be to aim for smaller fatty fish like sardines, salmon, which are low in mercury and plastic, so you can maximize the benefits and minimize the harm. At the end of the day, every food you eat these days has some sort of toxins or pollution, whether it's your fruits and vegetables that are infested with satanic pesticides or anything else. There will always be a downside to pretty much every food you eat. None of these concerns are an issue unless you're eating large amounts of large ocean fish regularly. And even then, there isn't much conclusive evidence as to the exact amounts you'd actually need to eat to get food poisoning from it. So yeah, enjoy your fish, mate. Go chuck a bloody shrimp on the barbie, as they allegedly say in Australia. No one actually says that, by the way.